seeing on the screen right now, that's from a 2.5-hour ski at 36 below. And the only reason I have icicles hanging from my mustache and ice on my goatee is because when you breathe out, you're breathing out, molecules, and they just freeze. And the thing is, I'm as warm as can be there, even though I have ice on my eyelid and stuff. I'm very warm because I'm dressed for it. And it looks, I don't have a heavy jacket, but I do have the layers that you should have. And that's what it's all about, is just layering. And I'll just start with the boot. Because it's very important to have warm feet. So I have what we call a bathroom boot, and this would be the BMW, the Lexus of boots you can have, because it has a place in the side where you can have a battery put in for your socks if you want. It also has the layers that we will involve, and you'll hear me use that word over and over again, layers. So you have your outside layer, which is a thick rubber sole, lots of traction. You get up here into the vinyl. And then if you look inside the boot, you have a layer that is kind of reflective in here outside of the felt. And then you have the felt in the nice warm place there. Your feet, if I was to put this on in my house and leave it on for even 2 minutes, my feet would start sweating. It's not meant to wear in the house. You have to wear these. I wouldn't suggest wearing these if it's 15 below and above that. If it's 30 below, this will keep your foot your feet very, very warm. So it's layers. It's the outside layer, the mid layer, and then the layer that's close to your foot. What we also tell you about your feet is try not to wear tight shoes of any kind. If it's tight, you're restricting your blood flow, and that's what it's all about. So let me go into the anatomy for a bit. Your heart, or your engine up here, is only concerned with keeping the vital organs alive if you are in a stressful situation. If you're out at sea and you fall into the water and you're cold, the first thing you'll lose dexterity in your hands and your legs and your feet. Why? Because the heart and your brain are only trying to keep the vital organs alive. Your mind and body in a stressful situation or cold situation couldn't care less about these things. They don't care. You can survive without your hands, and the body knows that. So all the blood that is vital to keeping things going will concentrate on keeping your core, that's this part here, warm. And your brain, no matter what, you're not going to override your brain, because it is programmed to keep your vital organs alive, not your hands and feet. They don't care about those. Those are just appendages that are attached to what's important to the body. So that's kind of the biological part of it. So if you keep this part warm, these parts will stay warm, and there's nothing worse than cold feet. Now, remember, it's real easy to keep big muscles warm. So you have the biggest muscles in your body, of course, are in your legs, your butt, your thighs, your quads, your calves. Those are big muscles. I've never ever really froze those. Where you get into the smaller muscles, your hands, and of course your hands are at the end of your capillaries that generate blood. They're actually pushing the blood back, so you don't get the blood here that you would get in your shoulders or that you get in your hips. You just don't have that blood. So you have to have something to keep those warm. So it's basically layers. Your first layer in here is a thin shirt. Now I have a thin shirt on here tonight. It's merino wool, very comfortable. I wear this shirt all the time when I'm home. And when I'm out skiing, I put on similar shirts and it's always a nice thin shirt next to your skin. Same with down under. You can put on a pair of tights underneath your ski tights or your ski pants if you want. And again, it's just layering. What you want to stay away from is that C word, because C stands for cold, and the other C word is cotton. That's how you remember. Don't use cotton next to your skin. Why? Because cotton will hold the sweat that you generate out there. And you'll say, well, I'm not going to sweat at 30 below. You'd be surprised what you do at 30 below once you start moving. When you're moving, you're generating heat, and heat generates from your body perspiration. And if it's not coming out to one of these synthetic fibers that whip it away from your skin and into the next layer, which, by the way, is fleece, fleece will soak that up and keep it away from your skin. If you have cotton, cotton will hold on to that. Now, you see people, on beaches in Mexico and places, and they might have a cotton shirt on, or you're out in the middle of the desert and you have cotton on. That cotton keeps your sweat, and the breeze keeps it cool. You don't want that up here. So stay away from the cotton products next to your skin. Just stay away from the cotton products. Use wool if you can, and use synthetic products, especially next to your skin, something that's nice and smooth that won't cause rashing. There is a danger, though, if you can actually, because you have this new wick-away stuff, and I find the wick-away stuff is really effective. It can almost make you too dry, because you do need a little bit of moisture in your body to keep everything from drying out. So it's a feel that you have. The fleece can be of any thickness you want. I find that once I get to 20 below, I may even put 2 fleece on, or a thicker fleece. And then over the fleece, you can grab, and I didn't bring a ski jacket down, but I do have my big one here, a jacket that is like this. This is good for like 40 below. But if you have the boiled wool, etc., outside of the fleece, and the fleece, of course, outside of the thinner wool that's next to your skin, there's no way that you should be getting cold. You'll notice that the thicker outer coat, the colder it is, the thicker it is, has an outside layer that causes the wind to stop as well. You'll notice also in this, the merino wool goes over your head. And that's going to be very important. You see in that picture I have, I actually have a balaclava underneath my hat. And I don't know why it says Maniac. That was just a hat I had when I was younger. That's a younger
It's picture. True.
But I have, a layer underneath my hat. So now what I do, I actually didn't like that down around my chin, because I got something new, and I'll show you that. So when I go out, I never go out in the winter, especially when it's minus 15 or colder, without one of these. This is called a buff. And the buff, actually, right now, it doubles as a mask. It's really nice. But I put the buff on like this to start. And then I have this thinner hat that actually is, it's kind of like a second layer. I put the buff underneath and this one on top. And then I put this hat on. That way I'm not going to lose the heat. Now, once I get going and my nose is warm, I just kind of gradually pull this down, and it ends up being like this. So you end up with the same thing that you have in that picture, your eyes and stuff, because this part here, especially in older people, it's not too affected by the cold. However, if you have younger children, especially that have very tender skin here, it only takes minus 10, minus 15 with a wind chill factor of minus 25 maybe. And within a minute or two, they will have white lines across here. That is the beginning of frostbite. And if you leave that for 3 to 5 minutes, it could be damaging to their skin cells and leave black marks on their face. I mean, it'll eventually heal itself, but it's very painful, as it kind of returns to normal. So we want to make sure that, especially with the younger kids, to keep this up and their eyes can look out. And if it's a sunny day, I always say put sunglasses on. The trouble with that, though, is because you're breathing up, the sunglasses get a little bit steamed up. So kids may not like that. But if you can keep their eyes, the cold won't affect their eyes, they can close it, and of course it keeps getting it warmer, but keep it down. Okay, so you're trying to keep all that heat down, and this buff just goes around the neck perfectly. And if you've got your fleece, you know, it comes up into almost a turtleneck. You are, you know, you can pretty well go anywhere you want in the cold, and it'll certainly work out. Now, when I come in the house, if I was to leave this on, just like my boots, I would start sweating. So I take it off usually as soon as I get in, but I always throw my hat back on. The other thing is, because, you know, I was just sitting in my office today and dreaming about going for a ski at 5 o'clock. And at 4:30, I look out and it's dark. Don't let that keep you in the house. You have, these are sold at Canadian Tire, sports stores, and they range from anywhere from $35 to this model here that's about $250. And there's others that can run you as much as $500. But what these do, and I'll just turn this on quickly, it has a light, and this is a smart light. If it's light in the room or if it's light out in the trail, you know, the moon's out, this will dim itself. If it's really dark, this light, because it has sensors, will make itself brighter. And when I'm skiing at night, it's almost like it's daylight out there, because this really lights the trail up in front of me. And the more expensive lamp you have, of course, they're rechargeable. So all I do is I plug this in when I come in. This will last me usually 3 or 4 nights before I have to plug it in. But I have a habit of plugging it in every second night so that I never run out, because you don't want to be in the middle of birchwood trails and all of a sudden your lamp goes out, especially on a very dark night. But this extends your day, and I know it doesn't add to our vitamin D, but it does extend our day up here. And I would suggest all, you know, households, if you want to be active outside in the winter, get a light. Now this will shut off. The red light comes on. You can actually leave the red light on sometimes, because red will help you see at night. Now we'll talk about what freezes. Most kids freeze first when they get up here. It's the hands. So when I ski, especially now, and anything usually above -20, that means 0 to -20, I use gloves, okay, with all the fingers. Now, if you go colder, these fingers have no ability to keep themselves warm by themselves. However, so like I said, find a good set of gloves. This is a pretty thick set of gloves, even though it doesn't look like it's thick. This is a glove good for about 20 below. What you want to do after 20 below is, again, you could use layering, but then your gloves get big. Or you can have what we call these lobster gloves. And that forces these two to keep each other warm, these two to keep each other warm. Now your thumb is still out there, but because these are warm, your thumb usually stays warm. I have a bad thumb that I almost cut off when I was roughing hockey, and the nerves are kind of shot, so it gets colder. So what I have is, again, I go back to that layering. I have a layer that I pull on top of that, and it keeps it nice and warm. Even at, you saw the picture a ways back where it was, like I said, it was about 36 below that day. I was using this type of glove, and my hands were nice and warm. If you feel your hands getting cold out there and you're wondering how to warm them up, some people will put them underneath their armpit and hold them there for a while. But while you're doing that, usually you're getting cold. The best thing I can do, and usually I can demonstrate this on the stage where I am, Leslie, but I'll demonstrate it here. All you have to do is keep swinging your arm around, and what that does is takes all this blood here and throws it out to the ends of your fingers, and you'll feel it, especially if your hands are a little cold. Leave your glove on, don't take it off, and you're outside, and just swing it. And the harder you swing it, I don't want to hit my light, the harder you swing it, the more, and I can feel the blood going there now, the more blood will go there, and it'll start to warm up. That I find much better than putting it under my armpit and sitting and standing there freezing for the rest of the body. if you get the blood, because that's what keeps you warm, is the blood. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Oh, I have a couple more of your
Sure.
pictures. If my computer will cooperate. Here it is.
This is us actually early season training. We can hardly wait for the snow. So our friend Kevin Grogan at the ski hill allows us to train at the bottom of the hill. And this is after a training session. We have to walk, of course, to the top. But it gets us, I believe this was mid-October last year when we didn't have, mid-November. We didn't have snow on Birchwood trails until December 1st last year.
Not so much this year.
Now, you can see how they're dressed, the layers. They have our ptarmigan coat on, and that's a coat that's good for about 25 to 30 below if you put the right layering underneath. And you can see that their pants that they have on are looser. That's because they have tights underneath and a loose pair of pants on top. Remember, tightness causes a restriction of blood flow. So you want to have looser clothes on in those conditions. And they all have toques on, as you can see. A picture of the United States of America, the USA National Paralympic team. And these guys, you can see their shoulders compared to mine. Now, there is one lady there. Her shoulders and mine are both the same. These folks are the strongest shoulders and arms I've ever seen because, of course, they can't use their legs. And these are called sit skis. And this is the national team. These guys are so good. I was actually skiing pretty hard, and I caught up with them, but I just barely caught up with them. They are incredible, like they're machines. And if I could push that hard as my shoulders, I think I'd be racing Graham Killick. But I thought this was quite a nice picture. I have it up in my office, and this is, of course, Canmore when we're down there racing. I believe this was the Western Canadians that year, and I race in my age division. Of course, I'm not a youth racer anymore. I race in the 50 to 60 category, and we had our team down there from Fort McMurray, and we're called the Ptarmigans.
Yes, and just as a shout out to the Ptarmigan Ski Club, are they still doing? So they're located at the Doug Barnes cabin, correct?
Yeah, in the Doug Barnes cabin. If anyone's been through there this summer, you know that we have an expansion of that cabin.
Amazing.
Just about 5 times our size. So we are going to have rental skis this year from Wettinger. We're working on that. And it is, like I said, right now, it is beautiful ski conditions. It's actually better ski conditions in Birchwood right now than it is in this picture, and that's at Canmore.
Sweet. So there are some really great options to get out and try some of the Canadian winter sports, especially for those who are new to Canada, or maybe you have been here a few years and you haven't really had the chance or haven't really thought about it. Maybe now you've climatized a little bit if you're coming from somewhere that's really warm, and maybe you would feel like, oh yeah, maybe I could go out when it's, below 0. But definitely check them out. I am going to do it. I'm going to do it.
Leslie, you make a good point in climatizing. Like tonight, I was in a hurry because I wanted to get a ski in before I did this. And I kind of guessed that it was -8, and I put on a couple of layers and tights in the bottom that maybe I should have put on a little thicker tight. But once I get out there and you get your engine going, your body produces a lot of heat. And, halfway through my ski, I was quite comfortable. But at the start, I was a little cool. And but I always preach against that when you're going out to have fun, sliding with your kids. Go out and feel warm at the start. You'll cool down a bit as you go along, but dress for the conditions, because there's a little jingle that says, if you have it on, you can take it off, but if you don't have it, you can't put it on.
Yes.
Parkswork Warehouse have very good boots. These boots are about, I think the last time I looked, they're about $600 now. but they're, believe me, it's worth every penny if you're planning on, if you're walking your dog, and if you have this challenge to go out walking every day in the winter, those boots will pay for themselves, the first 30 below we have, because they are so comfortable. But you can get a boot, that's similar, if you want to go to 20 below, is just, I guess it's like I said, they're like the BMW or the Lexus of the boot, and you basically get what you pay for. And I would, I'd look at the liner inside, how smooth it is, how light it is. These are incredibly light. I just can't believe how light they are, and I don't find them, some of the Sorel boots they have are big. These ones here are, this is, size of my foot. So I find them not as clumsy as some of the Sorels that have the toe stuck out, but these ones here are just fit you like it's almost like a slipper. And then of course, people don't like getting snow down in their boots. You have the string here you can pull, and it tightens everything up top, so you don't lose any heat, but no snow gets down in there either. So it's, like I said, it's like a car or a bicycle. You get what you pay for, and that's.
You should be taking some royalties on those for your promotion of their product.
Mark's, I would go to Mark's. Yeah, Mark's Work Warehouse would have a good one.
I have kind of a question, but and you did kind of touch on it a little bit, but just to kind of summarize, I guess. But if you're going outside, like to wait for a bus, as opposed to going outside to ski, you're going to dress very differently for those activities, correct?
Yeah, correct. So
if you're going,
like tonight, if I was waiting for a bus, I would want to have a heavier coat. I had a thin coat. I know my neighbors look at me at times and said, does that guy realize it's 20 below? And, it looks like he's got a thin jacket and just little tights on. But they don't realize, I don't know if they realize that I'm going to be generating a lot of heat. But if you're going out to wait for the bus, then you put on a heavier coat, maybe a couple of layers down, and then that's where the boots would come in handy. And even I wouldn't go with gloves at that point. I would go with mitts, so you can put your hands all together. And the other thing you reminded me, Leslie, young kids and even older people, and we do this once in a while, especially when it's 30 to 40 below. We use Vaseline on our nose and on our cheeks, because Vaseline will actually hold the heat and not get the frostbite, on the bridge of your nose or on your cheeks. And I've probably frostbitten my face, I don't know how many times, but not to a dangerous degree. But I come home sometimes and I have a white streak over here, and I have to warm it up with my finger. I could easily avoid that if I put Vaseline on it at that temperature.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thanks, Leslie, for having me again, and all the best with the rest of the Zoom meeting tonight.
Awesome. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much. Have good skis.
Thanks
for
a lot.
The next few days and months.
Okay.
All right.
I'm leaving.
See you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay. So I will get our next presentation up, and that is about winter driving. And we have with us Constable Kendall Coveney. Are you out there?
I am.
There you are. Okay. I'm getting ready to put you up there. So we have Constable Kendall Coveney here this evening, and he is going to just talk to us a little bit about winter driving, and just tell us what division you're with RCMP. Kind of, you spend a lot of time on the roads out there dealing with stuff.
I'm in the municipal traffic unit here in Wood Buffalo right now. I've been in the municipal traffic unit since February. I was also in that unit last summer for a bit. I was seconded to it, but prior to that, I was in community policing doing so many presentations with Leslie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Can you see?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I got it.
Okay. All right. Take it away. I'm going to mute myself because
I think you can probably just click through all the different points because I think there's like 10 points on this slide, right? Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, we come here in the wintertime, and as we saw today, I mean, from about 4 o'clock onwards, we started getting an onslaught of snow. I haven't looked outside myself recently. I don't know if anybody else has, but when I got home, there was already probably about 3 or 4 inches of snow on the road. So just within those 1 or 2 hours, you're already seeing that the roads can change conditions drastically. So when we say plan your trip, that's checking road and weather conditions. A couple sites I like to recommend is the AMA Road Report, and there's also I think it's called Alberta 511, I believe, I think that's what it's called. Yeah, the Alberta 511 report, and those give usually live updates on what the roads are looking like. Whether or not they're covered in ice, covered in snow, or the snow is blowing across, and what visibility is like too. And I know the AMA road report actually will give you live camera views of some of those highways as well, so you can actually take a look at what it looks like. Give yourself extra time. Even if you're just driving to work, give yourself that extra 10 or 15 minutes, because you never know. The roads might be terrible. You might have to go that slow down by that extra 10 kilometers or so. Take a cell phone and make sure it's fully charged. And even now, the way we use our cell phones, and we use them for everything, I always carry a power supply unit in my vehicle as well. That will give me that extra charge on my cell phone if I need it. But a lot of vehicles are coming with USBs in their vehicle as well, so you can charge it on the go. So that might be a good idea to do. Tell someone where you're going. Not only where you're going, but when you expect to get there too. So if you plan that, like you're traveling to Edmonton, a drive from here to Edmonton usually takes about 4.5 hours, sometimes 5. So you say, like, I'm leaving at 12, I should be there around 4:30, 5 o'clock. And then that way they know if they haven't heard from you by that time, they should maybe start trying to get a hold of you and see maybe what's going on and if something has happened. Stay on well-traveled roads. So for instance, if you're traveling to, say, Edmonton, that's a popular route from here, from Fort McMurray, to go shopping. There's a couple points where you can get to where you can take one way or the other way. Usually one of those directions is a little bit more traveled. I think it's Highway 28 is the more traveled one, but that's just one example. Don't drive tired. That's not just for winter, that's for anything. Just don't drive tired. And wear comfortable, warm clothing. I think Phil filled us in on all that prior to me hopping on here. So yeah, we'll move on to the next slide here. So yeah, starting out. Yeah, Leslie, if you just want to click through here. So yeah, remove all the snow from your vehicle. This is a given for visibility, especially your front windows, your front and side windows, not just the snow, but the frost. If you've got a frost scraper and brush to get rid of all that, that'd be great. And your rear window, I see a lot of people driving down the road, and technically it's not a law. You don't have to have your rear window defrosted or the snow brushed off, but it's just a good idea because it gives you that extra visibility behind you, see what's coming towards you. Who knows, maybe there's somebody behind you who's starting to slide at the stoplight and they can't stop, and you see them in your rear view, and then you can maybe get out of the way. Wear your seatbelt, once again, not just a winter thing, that's a every time thing. Drive with your headlights on. A lot of vehicles come with an automatic light function. Usually those sensors will work fine, and as the day adjusts, your lights on your vehicle will actually adjust to that. So when it gets dark, the lights on your vehicle will actually turn themselves on, but you need to have it to that auto function. For the vehicles that don't have it to that auto function, just check before you leave. Allow plenty of room between vehicles. This one is super crucial, especially in the winter time. I see so many people still tailgating people, even during the winter time when there's that little bit of ice on the road. All it takes is that little bit of ice or snow. That person in front of you has to slam on their brakes, and you don't have enough time, so you rear end them. Slow down. Speed limits are for ideal travel conditions and not winter conditions. There's actually been a couple of times where I myself have actually stopped people who are traveling, say, at 100 kilometers per hour on the highway, and it is a 100 kilometer per hour zone, but the conditions for that are not actually, I wouldn't say ideal for traveling at 100 kilometers per hour, because at that time there was actually about an inch layer of ice on the highway, but they still decided to drive at 100 kilometers per hour. But yeah, if need be, definitely slow down. And be alert. Always be alert. Smooth starts and speed control. I see this also often. People at stop signs and red lights. As soon as that light turns green or they've stopped and it's safe to go, they hit the gas a little too hard and their wheels stop spinning. This is especially true for vehicles that don't have all-wheel drive or don't have four-wheel drive. You'll see either the front wheels or the rear wheels spinning and them not actually getting anywhere. So smooth starts mean a smooth, gradual start to the gas, which will allow your tires to get that traction slowly in order for you to take off in a smooth start. And speed control. So drive at a safe speed at all times and don't use overdrive or cruise control on slippery roads. I always recommend to never use cruise control during the winter time. Even if the roads are dry, because like I said, that can change in a split moment, and you never know. You might go from one area where, and I've seen this a lot, where it's completely dry, and then you round the corner and there's a big patch of ice or something that you don't see, and then you lose that control because your vehicle is still in that cruise control, still trying to get those 100 kilometer per hour cruise control speeds, right? Okay, hills and curves. So yeah, shaded sides of the hills might be icy. So we definitely don't have a lot of, or as much sunlight as we did in the summer. So there's definitely a lot more shade, a lot more areas that won't have that exposure to the sun and won't dry up. So reduce the speed at the crest of the hill and be prepared for unseen hazards on the other side. Once again, that's a tip that I always like to say is not just a winter tip, that's an every time tip, especially when you're coming up to something that you don't know what's on that other side. And then curves and steering, steer smoothly. Any sort of abrupt steer or abrupt moves in your steering might cause your wheels to slip out and lose control, and then therefore your vehicle no longer has that traction, and you might go into a spin or a skid or end up in the ditch. Pavement markings and lane changes, yeah, they disappear in the winter time. As soon as there's any bit of snow, you don't see those dotted white lines or the yellow lines marking the in-betweens. A lot of times we have, like I was just traveling on Powder Drive today towards Independent, and I noticed I could not see any of the white lines. It was basically the lanes were there, but only because people had made them from them driving from basically memory of knowing where those lanes were. So yeah, keep to the right side of the road if you're on, let's say, a two-way oncoming traffic type road. Stay to the right to allow maybe that other side, that oncoming traffic. They don't know where those lines are either, so they might actually be encroaching onto your lane. So that gives you that extra advantage. But I also say be wary of going too far to the right, because especially in the wintertime, the snow covers the ditch, and it can be hard sometimes to actually see where the road ends and the ditch begins. So be careful of that. And then lane changes, plan very far in advance and change smoothly. A good example for that is if you're coming into the downtown core and you know that you're going to be making that left turn towards Peter Pond, just stay in those left lanes or change well in advance, maybe of the bridge into those left lanes, and stay in those left lanes if you know you're making that eventual left-hand turn. Yeah, following distance. This is what I see as one of the main causes of people being rear-ended, especially in the wintertime. So keep your distance between the other vehicles, and stopping on ice takes 3 to 12 times longer than on dry roads. So yeah, especially in these first few beginning months of winter, the October, November, December months when we're still getting used to the snow and the ice, a lot of people are still clinging on to those summertime driving habits and are leaving what would be an appropriate space between vehicles in the summertime, but for the wintertime, you should definitely be leaving that extra space. At times, I myself, as a personal rule, I will leave, if I'm driving within town, at least 3 to 4 car lengths. And if somebody moves in there, so what, I'll back off even a little bit more. And on the highway, I'll sometimes leave, I don't even know, but quite a length between myself and the vehicle in front of me because I'm traveling that much faster. So my stopping time is going to be that much longer. Okay, skidding. Yeah, the big thing is do not panic. It's going to happen. If you're driving in the wintertime, you're definitely going to end up skidding. The biggest thing is don't panic, because if you panic and you either end up overcorrecting or moving in a way that's going to make you end up moving to a lane you don't want to be in, end up in the ditch, or end up hitting another vehicle. Do not brake or accelerate. You're just adding extra elements to something that's already happened. If you do either of those two, if you brake, you're most likely going to brake hard, which is going to commit more to that skidding. And if you accelerate, it's most likely going to cause you to go in a direction you don't want to go. So look where you want to go and then steer that direction. And then if you can, switch to neutral. Switching to neutral causes your vehicle not be able to put any input into those wheels to cause you to go into more of a skid. And then declutch to disconnect the driving force on the wheels. Just that it gets rid of that input into the wheels that would commit more input to that skid. I definitely won't go through all of this. I'd have to read quite a bit there. But just a couple of diagrams there of rear wheel skids, front wheel skids, and four wheel skids. All depends on what's going on. A rear wheel skid will happen to a lot of times we see it here in Fort McMurray all the time. The big trucks that have no weight in the back of them, but they're rear wheel drive, and they start to accelerate and their tires will skid out. A lot of times those fellas are doing that on purpose, and that's when I go and deal with them. But front wheel skids, that'll happen if you got a front wheel drive vehicle, and four wheel skids will happen if you're just going straight, or if you lock up all four wheels, stuff like that. Okay, braking. Oh, what happened there? Here we are. Okay, so without anti-lock brakes, most vehicles do have ABS brakes now. Even the older models will have ABS, but heel and toe method, to be honest with you, I don't actually know what that method is. I don't know, Leslie, do you have any input on that? Do you know what the heel and toe method is?
I believe it's like the pulse.
Okay.
You know, like when you kind of shift the weight of, like, yeah, just like that.
So basically just press on the brake going from heel to toe.
Yes.
I guess that would probably cause you to have a smooth braking method as opposed to just toe first driving into the brakes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So yeah, with anti-lock brakes, heel and toe method, but do not remove foot from the brake pedal until the vehicle comes to stop. The reason for that with ABS is because the ABS will actually do that for you. If the wheels start skidding, ABS will actually unlock the brakes for you, even if you've got your foot on the brake. It'll automatically unlock those brakes to stop you from going into a skid. Whereas without anti-lock brakes, you might have to release pressure if you go into a skid, and then replace pressure after you've come out of that skid. Stuck or stranded in snow. Yeah, do not panic. Stay in your car if you can't shovel it out. One thing I would be careful of with that is if you end up deep enough in the snow, your exhaust can actually get blocked, and some of that can start ending up in your cabin. So if you can, if you can see through your mirrors or just out through the windows to just see if your exhaust is out in the open, so you know your exhaust is going out into the open. If you can't, maybe just step outside for that quick moment just to make sure your exhaust is out in the open and you're not bringing that into your cabin. Another reason to stay in your car is to stay warm. Another reason is that you don't get hit on the highway, especially if you're stuck on the highway. Most times you're not going to be wearing high visibility clothing if you're just driving. So if you get out of your vehicle, it might be hard for other drivers on the road to be able to see you, and there's the potential that they could run into you if you're on the road trying to flag them down. Turn on your flashlights or your flares, so your hazard lights. That's the red triangle button in your vehicle. That'll place all 4 hazards on. That'll let other vehicles on the road know you're either in trouble or you're stuck and that they won't hit you. I'd like to say that most people would stop and help, but as we're progressing here, lots of people won't. But at least they won't hit you if you've got your hazards on. Run the engine 10 minutes every hour. That's probably just to conserve gas. If you feel like, if you know you're going to be there for a long time, especially if you don't have cell phone reception, you're basically just waiting on fate for somebody to come around to either help you or notice you and call the police or ambulance, EMS to come help you. Keep warm with a blanket, clothing, and candle. I'm not sure if Phil talked about it before me with his warm winter clothing, if he talked about what to bring on trips and stuff, but we always suggest having a sort of an emergency kit in your vehicle that includes a blanket, extra clothing, a candle for heat and for light.
We may be giving one of those away.
Okay. Yeah, amongst other things. There's so many things I would say you could add to these. Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, there's so many things I'd say you could add to these, an emergency kit in your vehicle that you'd run out of room entirely if you added everything that we'd recommend. But there is few essentials that you should have for sure. And do not fall asleep. That's probably just so that you can continue monitoring for other things like the exhaust coming into your vehicle and other drivers and stuff. So temperature, snow and ice are more slippery at 0 than at -20. That's probably because that 0, I actually don't know the science behind that, so I'm not going to pretend I do, but I would imagine it has something to do with humidity. Black ice occurs between +4 and -4 degrees. The road will look black and shiny, and it's found in shaded areas of the road, bridges, and overpasses. So that's the type of ice that is very hard for you to detect and see because it doesn't look like regular ice. And once you hit it, you won't really expect it because you won't see it coming. Okay, blizzards. Yeah, lots of snow. I mean, I would almost say what we had there around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock was almost blizzard-like. Visibility went quite down quite quickly there. So yeah, falling, blowing, or drifting snow, winds of 40 kilometers per hour or more. When I'm driving in a blizzard, because I'm sometimes forced to during work, you almost find that if anybody's seen Star Wars or maybe even Star Trek, when they go into light speed, when all the stars come at you really quick, that's what it looks like when you're driving through blizzard because you got all that snowflakes coming at you super quick. That's a fun, that's a quite nerdy way for me to describe it, but yeah, temperature.
Love it. That's exactly what it's like.
Well, it is what it's like.
It is, yes.
There's definitely a meme of that, so you're right.
So yeah, it's a storm lasting 6 hours or more. I always recommend not to drive during a blizzard. Only drive if you absolutely have to, and that's like in emergency situations. Sometimes it might come on so quickly that it might not even be in the forecast. Alberta weather can change, and within 5-10 minutes, it can go from sunny to all of a sudden, boom, you got a blizzard. Um, but if you do end up stranded, stay with your vehicle until help arrives. Heavy snow. So yeah, 10 centimeters or more of snow in 12 hours, or more than 15 in 24 hours. Snow can be large flakes and sit as heavy, wet snow. The one that's super fun to plow from your driveway. Creates treacherous driving conditions because it's hard for you to see the road. It's hard for you to maybe see other drivers. Your vehicle's almost struggling with an off-road type situation because you're no longer, yes, you may be on pavement, but you're no longer on pavement. You're dealing with deep snow, which can almost be like driving through mud at times. So it's best to avoid that until the plows have gone out and removed that snow from the highways. Blowing or drifting snow. Loose snow is picked up and blown by strong winds and reduces visibility. It can create icy roads and sometimes snow drifts. That's one of the more dangerous parts of the blowing and drifting snow is depending on the direction you're driving. If you're driving, say, southeast at one moment, and then the highway changes direction to southwest, then the southwest direction actually might in that situation make it perfect for snow drifts to build up on the highway, and you might round a corner and go boom right into a snow drift, and then you're stuck, or it causes you to end up in the ditch. And then overtaking and passing other vehicles is difficult. And if it's blowing and it's extremely windy, it can even cause your vehicle to, not just wintertime, but summertime as well, cause your vehicle to get blown over the road. It's always dangerous to drive around semi-truck drivers at that time too, because their trailers could get blown over, and their trailers can also start drifting within the lanes and stuff. So those are all things to keep in mind when you're driving through severely windy conditions. Freezing rain. We usually don't have to deal with that now. This is usually an issue in late fall, early spring. But it's when the rain basically turns to ice as soon as it hits the ground. Coats the road with ice. You're better off with skates than you are with the wheels that you have on your vehicle. And it causes extremely slippery roads. It's best to stay off of it. And then freezing fog. This is the one that I think is a little bit more dangerous because it's not as obvious. So when there's a fog in the air, and that humidity from that fog causes that same ice to build up on your vehicles and to build up on the roads, on your windshields. It'll cause your windshield wipers to freeze up and you not be able to perfectly clear your windshield, so that you can't see the highway anymore. And it also causes the power lines usually to break, which is a completely separate dangerous situation. But so yeah, some links there for, I don't know if they're current links or not, but
I'm not sure if they are current links to, but definitely the AMA road report that you mentioned in the beginning when you started talking there is a really great resource if you know you're going to be traveling. And a lot of times, I don't know if you caught there, but it said just do not drive. If you do not have to, then don't when those conditions are extreme. Is there any questions right now? Anyone have questions? Well, if that is all for Constable Coveney, then we want to say thank you for coming out tonight and sharing with us some winter driving. Yeah, you're good? All right.
okay, thank you. Have a good night.
Awesome. Thank you. See ya.
Yeah.
Driving. But I did just want to touch on a couple things. I'll kind of go quickly so that you guys can get on with your evening. And then if you have any questions that you want to ask that you think of after this is over and we say goodnight, please reach out. You can contact Safe Community Wood Buffalo, and we will, if we don't know the answer, we will find the answer for you. So, or do our best anyways. But so one thing, always checking the weather is something that should become a habit throughout winter. So you're sending your kids outside to play, sending your kids to school, or even going outside yourself, driving somewhere. Always check the weather so that you can kind of be prepared for what the temperature is, for what the conditions will be if you're driving. And wind chill, Phil did mention this as well. The wind chill is very important, because if you miss that, I mean, the other day we had like a 15-degree wind chill on top of the minus already. So it's just really important to look at that feels like temperature, because the wind plays a huge part in how cold it is. If children can be supervised, or maybe not even so much supervised, but like maybe they have a buddy system. My kids go outside and they play, and I mean, I can usually hear them because they're pretty loud, but they kind of have their friends. They know the places where they're allowed to be, and just make sure that, you know, someone knows where they are, where they're playing, and that sort of thing. And checking often to see if they are, to make sure that they're warm and that they're dry. My son has come in a couple of times this week and he has been soaked, and we've had to change snow pants and change mittens. The minute that things get wet is when that cold is going to come in there, and the potential is there for freezing. So we just want to make sure that we're watching that. Layers, mittens, waterproof boots that have room so that they can just better able to keep the warmth to their feet. Dressing them appropriately for the activity that they will be engaged in. Again, Phil talked a lot about this, so I don't want to go into depth too much again. But when you come inside, take off, like change your clothes. If you've been outside or the kids have been outside playing, tell them to come in and change their clothes. I am not as active as Phil is. I aspire to be, but I do a lot in winter. I do go running and I go hiking and we snowmobile and do a lot of things outside in the wintertime. And I will say that when I come inside, if I don't change my clothes right away, within 15 minutes, I'm shivering. My body is like shivering, because that condensation that built up in my clothes, that sweat or anything, is all of a sudden turns cold and your body is getting cold. So making sure to change clothes after outside play. Wearing the gear. So this is something that Safe Community is kind of our motto for all things. We want to make sure that you're wearing the proper safety equipment for any activity that you're participating in. Bicycle helmets are not permitted outside for less than minus 10 degrees Celsius. So if they are going to be skating, ice skating, or snowboarding, they will need the proper helmets for those activities. Wrist guards, also good for some of those activities are high impact, and just wearing the proper gear will help reduce the risk of injury. Slips and falls. November is actually Slips and Falls Awareness Month, making sure you have proper footwear. When you run outside, don't go too fast. There might be ice that's hiding underneath snow, because ice loves to do that. It just loves to hide, and you run out and slip. So just be careful and bend your knees a little, kind of do the penguin walk a little bit if you know that it's icy. And you can also get things for your shoes that you can just slip on over top of your shoes. Mark's Work Wearhouse, Canadian Tire, Home Hardware, name dropping all of the hardware places that they should be available. Amazon, shop local, but you should be able to find something, ice picks to go on your shoes. It's a good idea to learn to protect your dominant hand. So if you're falling, normally if you're right-handed, the first hand that you're going to put down to catch yourself is your right hand, or left-handed if you're left-handed. So get used to protecting that. A lot of people will hurt and injure themselves, and if you don't have your dominant hand that you would use for writing or typing, that can or for anything, it's just super annoying. I actually injured my collarbone this past summer. No, it was winter, but we were in a summer place, and it was my dominant hand. It was horrible. Frostbite. We talked about this a little bit. Phil talked about using Vaseline to protect against frostbite, but you will notice my kid comes in, like I said, he gets frostbitten like really, really fast. And we always remember to put something just to cover his face, and he's usually fine. But the symptoms of frostbite is when it gets red and swollen, and you can kind of feel like a stinging or burning sensation. You can feel it in your fingers as well when they get too cold. Your ears are the first things that will start to freeze. And then my son gets the circles on his cheeks, and it's almost like red with a white circle, and the skin is starting to freeze there. So it kind of looks a little bit gray and shiny and white, and you know that skin is starting to freeze, so you just need them to warm up. If frostbite happens once, you are more prone to it happening again. So making sure that you're prepared. There you can see in the picture, there's that white circle on the little girl's cheek. So what you want to do, it is a myth. Some people think that you put snow on it. No, you do not put snow on frostbite. That's a myth. Do not do that. You want to gently take off any of the clothing that's around the area, change into dry, warm clothes, and slowly warm up the area by using body heat or, something that is lukewarm. You do not want to use hot water. So if you come in and your hands are freezing, your fingers are frozen, your first instinct is to turn on the sink and like shove them in some hot water. Do not do that. That makes it very, very painful. You can come inside and use your armpits to slowly warm them up, or just usually being within room temperature inside your house for a bit of time will help to warm up the area that is frozen and help it. It's painful. I don't know if either of you have had frostbite before. It is quite painful when it does start to unfreeze, but yeah, just don't stick it under hot water and just kind of slowly warm it up, the areas that are affected. And there's the picture again of Phil, because I do use his presentation in other places, and I usually mention him when I get to this point, because he is actually not at all frostbitten in this picture. But again, making sure that you do not rub snow on frostbitten skin. Do not massage it. Don't rub it or anything. Just let it warm up. And there are times when frostbite will need to be seen by a medical expert, a doctor, go to the emergency room. But usually within a few minutes of being inside, you start to warm up and that frostbite goes away. So winter skincare, like I already feel it. Like my lips are so chapped and dry. My legs, I could just scratch them to pieces because they just feel so dry at some times. So make sure that you have your chapstick. increasing the amount of water you drink will also help to combat those dry symptoms that we see on our skin, and the cracking stuff using the cream, petroleum jelly, anything that we can, obviously if it's really bad, you're going to seek medical attention, advice on that. But otherwise, increase the amount of water you drink and use those products. I carry, especially now we're into like really hand sanitizing and washing our hands a lot, and then winter on top of that, so it's really super dry. I carry cream in my purse. I have a cream in my car. I have a cream at my office in my drawer. So just keeping your skin moisturized and your lips will help that.
We turn on humidifiers in the wintertime too. So like the bedrooms, the humidifier goes on when we're going to bed, and there's one in the downstairs living room, and that helps with the static too, as well as just putting moisture in the air so you're not so dry. Like I know if I forget to turn on the humidifier, I wake up and I'm like all dry. Yes. And yeah.
And you'll notice kids will get nosebleeds.
Yes.
Well, not just kids, anybody, but like I notice my kids, when it's really dry in the wintertime, they get nosebleeds. And actually the other day, my oldest son is in swimming lessons, and they had 2 people that had to leave the pool because 2 kids got nosebleeds. But the dry air from being outside, then coming into the humidity, and right. So humidifiers will help with those conditions as well. I do also, there's not a slide in here to this, but also car seat safety is something that Safe Community Wood Buffalo talks a lot about, and something that we always educate on with winter safety is properly harnessing your child in their car seat or their booster seat with the seatbelt. And we do discourage using or strapping them in with big puffy jackets and snowsuits. If you can take those off while they're in the harness, slip them back on when they're going out outside, that is most beneficial. Any bulk that you add into a harness or a seatbelt can really increase the risk of injury to the child. So just making sure, that's my little sidebar, my little side point there. And also if you have car seat questions, you can ask us, and we help with that as well.